Hello friends, welcome to your channel. In this video, we will cover checked and unchecked exception in Java. In the exception hierarchy, at the top we have throwable class. Throwable class has two subclasses. One is exception and other is error. Exception class subclasses we could categorize into checked and unchecked exception. The difference between checked and unchecked exception is that in case of checked exception, compiler could guess beforehand that there is a possibility of exception from a particular line in our code at runtime. It is only a possibility. That does not mean that the code will definitely throw exception at runtime. Because of the possibility, compiler would force us to handle the possible exception before we run the code. But in case of unchecked exception, compiler could not guess beforehand that there is a possibility of exception from a particular line in our code at runtime. So compiler would not force us to handle the exception before we run the code. Runtime exception class and all its subclasses comes under unchecked exception, and remaining subclasses of exception class comes under checked exception. For example, IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception comes under checked exception. First, we will see an example of arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception is a subclass of runtime exception. So arithmetic exception is unchecked exception. In our code, knowingly or unknowingly, if we divide 10 by 0, it will raise arithmetic exception at runtime. It is an unchecked exception, so compiler will not force us to handle the exception before we run the code. Now we will see an example of IO exception. IO exception is not a subclass of runtime exception, so it is checked exception. If we want to read a file using file input stream, there is a possibility of IO exception at runtime. So compiler would not let us run the code till we handle the exception, as we could see here. Thank you for watching this video. I keep uploading videos like this regularly. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and like and comment in the video.